Thank you. Good to see you all. Just saw a few of the mayors outside. It was great just engaging with them. In my level of brevity, I believe in the Mike Tyson theory of speaking. You don't have to do 12 rounds, what you could do in one. So I want to be as succinct as possible. I want to touch on two things. And the one, my team has heard me talk about it often for these last few days. I am just really concerned where we are as a city and really as a country. There are some real signs that I believe we are ignoring. You know, there was that old biology test where a frog placed in hot water would jump out right away. If you place it in cool water and turn up the temperature slightly, it would stay there and boil itself to death. I believe we're boiling ourselves to death. We have normalized the dysfunctionality that is so present in this city and in this country. Our babies are waking up in the morning en route to school, stopping off at the local bodega and getting gummy bears laced with fentanyl and cannabis, with all the science showing what cannabis does in early childhood development. The suicide rates, particularly around Black and brown children in general, but specifically Black girls, are through the roof in all of our children. TikTok, I go back and forth to China 6 or 7 times. There's a TikTok in America that they don't show in China. Their TikTok is educational. Our TikTok is foolishness. Teaching our children how to have a competition to steal Kia cars. We're watching the suicide numbers. It's just unbelievable. The level of children who are participating in suicide or have suicidal thoughts. It's just reached a point where the temperature is just increases so slightly that we're going to turn around and realize that an entire generation that was supposed to pick up the mantle is not there. We're going to hand off the baton and find out there's no one there to carry it. All of these gains that we have made. And then look at the moment. Look at the table that's set. The number of Black members of the C-suites and CEOs of major corporations right here in the city. Hakeem was here earlier. First person of color to head one of the major parties in both houses. African-American leader in the assembly, African-American leader in the Senate, African-American leader in the city council, person of color is the DA in Kings County, the largest county in the Bronx, in Manhattan, public advocate, African-American, Letitia James, Attorney General, African-American, the mayor of the city of New York is African-American. 4 of the major cities in America are headed by African-American mayors. 7 out of the 10 are African-American and mayors of color. All of this chocolate, what are we going to do with it? People run around and tell me, you know, we got to fight the power. I say, Negro, you are the power. We are the power. Our ancestors prayed for this moment. This is what the marching was about. This is what the sit-ins were about. This is what all that we fought for is for this moment right now. And I believe there are 3, the trilogy I like to call it, 3 areas that are supposed to come together. Agitation, negotiation, and legislation. Let's not kid ourselves. Corporations didn't open to what many of us are benefiting from because we were smart. We were always smart. That Black Lives Matter movement where people hit the street and the agitation that came from that opened doors that would have never opened before. But the opening of those doors can't be that you're going to buy tickets to my annual dinner dance. Can't be that you're going to give me a journal page. We have to have a clear plan of what we expect from these corporations. And the legislation has to be clear. What we're doing in this city, there's never been a mayor like me in the city of New York, period. What we're doing in this city with our upstream mindset. Everyone hear me talks about Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. We have a downstream mindset across this country. We hang out downstream and pull people out of the river instead of going upstream because it's profitable. Black and brown people are being pulled out of the river all across this country, and people that don't look like them are making money from it happening. So what are we doing here in this city? 40% of our inmates are dyslexic. 40%. So we're doing dyslexia screening with David Banks in every school, and we're going to Rikers, and we're testing those young people there and those who are incarcerated so they could be identified as being dyslexic. Because you are dyslexic does not mean it must be a death sentence. You know why I know? Because the mayor is dyslexic. That's why I know. 48% of the people on Rikers Island have a mental health issue. 18% of them have severe mental health issues. Yet we believe the answer is incarceration, and we want to steer it in a new direction. Everyone is engaged in the conversation of close Rikers. How about closing the pipeline that feed Rikers? Why don't we start there? And then you do an examination of our failing educational system. Billions of dollars are being spent where 65% of black and brown children never reach proficiency in this city. And it's the same across the country. It's not only New York, all over the country. We are focusing on those opportunities. Our plan, what we're doing around NYCHA students, we have NYCHA accelerated learners, A students, no support. They do it straight on grit and grind. So now imagine if we take those accelerated learners and surround them, teach them how to be in a social setting, how to use the right fork when you eat your salad, how to shake hands, how to play golf, how to go to the right schools, encourage them, how to wear the right attire, and give them the support they need, paid internships. You know what happened to those accelerated learners? They go back into those communities and start dealing with some of the real crises that we're facing in NYCHA. Foster care children aging out every year, 600 to 700 age out every year, and we know what's going to happen to them. We know they're going to be incarcerated, victims of crimes, mental health illness, homeless, unemployed. So what did we do? We said to our foster care children, we're paying your college tuition. And we're going to allow you to have a mentor throughout so that with that mentor, 90% graduate from college from high school instead of 21% graduating from high school. We have become so accustomed to the dysfunctionality of cities that we've allowed them to happen. And I say no to that. And that's what the legislation must reach, the negotiation must reach the agitation. But there has to be a real blueprint. My first deputy mayor, first woman of color to be the deputy mayor in New York, she always said, we can't do this scatter and pray mindset. That's not how you run your businesses. If you were to run your corporations the way we run cities, you'll be bankrupt. But the problem is there's a lack of competitiveness to producing a good product in cities. You have to compete or someone would go to your opponent. Cities don't have to do that. They don't pick up your garbage. Where are you going to go? They don't educate your children. Where are you going to go if you can't afford it? They don't keep your city safe. Where are you going to go? So what we're doing in this administration is we're bringing the competitiveness into governments and making sure that we compete and create a good product. And then we have to keep our high income earners here. I know it's not a popular conversation, but 2% of New Yorkers pay 51% of my taxes. And they're fleeing because they want a quality product. And I want to demand more from them, but I need to produce the product that want people to stay here because the prerequisite to prosperity is public safety and justice. They go together. And that is how we must function. But we need you. We need you. We need you to push your companies if you're not the CEO to talk about paid internship programs. You want to change your child's life? Get him out of the environment that he's in. Too many of our young people have this anti-Christopher Columbus theory, believing if they leave their block, they're going to fall off the globe. We have to stop raising MetroCard leaders and passport leaders. Let them come into your environment. Do that paid internship program. And do something else. You got a mentor. Got a mentor. I just really believe in all my heart, Charles. This is an Esther 4 and 14th moment. God made me for this moment. I could care less people talking about why you always talking about God. Because if you knew how broken I was as a child, you'll be talking about God too. Yes, I'm the mayor of the city of New York, former borough president, first African-American, state senator, captain in the police department. That's my glory. That's not my story. My story is being a young man who was dyslexic and didn't learn until he got into college. My story is being the top number runner in South Jamaica, Queens. My story is being arrested. My story is watching mommy give us garbage bags so we can carry them to school so we could have a change of clothing. My story was growing up eating that hard-ass cheese that we had to eat because we couldn't afford to have a real meal. That's the story. My story is mommy being in a domestic violence situation, refusing to flee because she was worried about her children. My life that I lived is the life that people are living. And every person that I picked for my team can tell you their narrative. I don't want you to be so academically smart that you're not emotionally intelligent. My housing person lived in the shelter. My deputy mayor of Health and Human Services dealt with cancer. You go through the litany of people who are part of my team, their personal narrative was the reason that I hired them. Because you have to bring your personal narrative to be committed to doing the work that we're doing. And that's the partnership we must develop. We must summon together all of the local electeds across this country. Summon together our CEOs, our leaders, those who are sitting in the boardrooms, and even summon together those who are in the streets and work out a blueprint. That's how you move the needle. Engage each month how close we're getting and use our dollars appropriately. One of the most important hires I did was Michael Gardner, who's now in charge of my MWBE program. Over $20 billion we're spending, and every year they come up with excuses not to disseminate it among folks of color. And we're going to inspect our project because, you know, mommy said if you don't inspect what you expect, it's all suspect. And it's been suspect for a long time. We're going to make sure we gauge the success of this city. And we're not going to be perfect all the time. In fact, I'm perfectly imperfect. But I'm dedicated. I'm committed. I want the young person who's sitting on Rikers Island say, my mayor was in jail. I want the person who's sitting in school right now that can't learn to say, my mayor had a learning disability. I want a person who's homeless to say, my mayor lived on the verge of homelessness. And I want us to come together and do what you're doing now, brother. I cannot thank you enough. You were an unbelievable mentor as I put my team together. You were solid. And as soon as the race was over, you reached out, you sat down, and you brought your expertise. One of my most important hires was Matt Frazier that you gave me. You're a solid, solid brother. And that same love that you showed me, we got to show each other. The competition is over. It's time for us to unite. It's time for us to make sure that we finally move the needle. It would be a Shakespearean tragedy if we lose this moment and we did nothing with it. It would break my heart. All that our ancestors fought for. And we are here. And it would break my heart if we do nothing with it. We're not trying to break anyone's heart. Thank you very much.